Hello, this is Tim Trelaw, and you're listening to the Sirens of Audio.
Now, let me get my head together. I really should write notes. I've been saying this for 2 years. G'day audiophiles, this is the Sirens of Audio, the show that explores the universe of Doctor Who in the audio medium. My name's Dwayne.
And my name is Philip. G'day Dwayne, g'day audiophiles.
G'day Philip. What are you laughing at?
Oh, because you've been making fun of me before we came on air, so that's
I would never ever do that.
You would too.
Today on the show we are going to get some production insights. We're going to be speaking with new Big Finish producer. Well, she's been there a couple of years now, but she's one of the newbies. Heather Challands is going to be joining us later on. That'd be good to have a chat with her.
Yeah, it's amazing the new talent that Big Finish have brought on over the last couple of years, new producers. Once again, lovely that they've got more women joining in as well. And I think they bring a whole new dynamic. So looking forward to chatting with Heather and seeing what she's bringing to the whole show.
Yeah, I have said in the past that I've had a sense that there's almost like a changing of the guard happening. Sort of training people up from the younger, because these guys we're all getting older, even you and I, Philip. We're going to have to get some young people to take over our podcast in a few years.
Yes, that's depressing, but let's not go there yet.
All right, well, I just thought I'd bring it up just to preempt it. But we are also celebrating the release of Gallifrey War Room, which is one of the most anticipated releases for you, I believe, Philip, for this year.
I have been looking forward to this for so long. I've always loved Gallifrey. You know, I'm a huge fan of the Gallifrey series. The first 3 seasons, I still think, are some of the best stuff that Big Finish ever produced. I loved how it then developed and moved on. I think when Scott Hancock took over the reins, it was great to see as well. But now Heather's got us, and to see a new, to see what it is. I mean, we've gone from the big time war to a war room. And so just the whole way that the picture's changed again, I think it's going to be exciting to see what they do with that.
Excellent. But before we do talk to Heather about all things production...
Well, you don't want to just move on and talk to Heather now? There's nothing else to do first, is there?
There is something to do first, don't you know? Whoops, we've fallen in. It's a rabbit hole. Right, Philip, for this rabbit hole, there's a lot of stuff going on social media. I don't know how much social media you look at, but there's leaks, there's photographs from new Doctor Who filming. There's mysterious Twitter posts happening all over the place. We're recording this a little while before this goes to air, so even more has probably happened since we're talking right now, Philip. How do you feel about spoilers? We've got this new era of Doctor Who coming up on TV. We've got new things coming out all the time on Big Finish. Are you the kind of person that needs to know what's coming up as far as spoilers go?
I don't need to know. I do like to know. And I keep thinking I must be on the wrong Twitter sites because people keep telling me they see stuff and thinking, okay, I'm obviously following the wrong people. So I need to start working out who to follow because I'm not seeing some of the photos that apparently are out there, and I'm missing it. So I need to find someone else to follow. So I'm very happy to see that sort of stuff. I don't put it all together, and so and you know I'm not one of the people who care about all these big long theories about David Tennant's suit and pants are different, therefore he can't be the 10th Doctor. He must be the 14th Doctor, or he's some meta crisis. I mean, who cares? So I don't go into that sort of detail. In fact, I wouldn't have particularly noticed the fact that his pants weren't what he wore in the series. No, I probably would have done. But I just don't care about that stuff at all. But I do like to see the photos. I like to see who's back. I think one of the things I've missed over the Chibnall era, because Chris has kept everything very close to his chest and hardly anything ever got released. I think the one of the few things was we saw the Jejune were back because the photos captured of them marching through streets. But over 3 years we hardly heard anything. But the fact that Russell's back and we're seeing filming the streets, I think it's great. I love it. And as I said, I don't think it spoils. Well, it doesn't spoil me. I know it does spoil some people. Why? What do you think, Dwayne?
I'm not totally against spoilers. If I'm spoiled, it doesn't really bother me. But equally, I'm not bothered if I don't know. And in fact, there are some times when I'm happy not to know. In fact, probably the worst spoiler for me in new series Who would have been the trailer for series 10, which showed the reveal of the John Sim Master at the end of it. I would have much preferred to go into that and being completely surprised. It was quite a lot earlier than the series aired. So I think by the time that episode came out, I'd almost forgotten that he was in. So it was a little bit of a surprise, but I said, oh yeah, that's right. I've seen him in the trailer. So I would have preferred that. Even in Big Finish, we've had secrets being kept, like the Annihilators had a different cover. And then I think it was 1st of January this year that the Annihilators cover 2nd edition was dropped that featured the second Doctor. So we got to see that it was a multi-Doctor story. And I was quite happy either way. I was happy to know. I was happy to not know and be surprised as well. I was very happy to know that Michael Troughton was playing the Doctor. But because I always said that if anyone was going to be recast, if it wasn't Fraser Hines, it would have to be Michael Troughton. And I'm very happy that happened. So yeah, I'm happy to... I'm one that my wife can buy me a present, get me to go and pick it up from the post office, and she'll say, oh, that's your present. And I'll go, oh, there you go. And I just give it to her and I don't care and I forget about it by the time I get it all wrapped up, So it just doesn't bother me at all. Whereas my kids, if they know, they'll pest you and pest you and pest you. I think some fans might be like that too, perhaps. They just love to know, need to know. It doesn't bother me knowing, but, I'm just as happy not to know anything. I like being surprised. I like that. It's like the good old days when you were seeing things for the first time without any knowledge. I know you like listening to your Big Finish audio without even reading the blurb, Philip. So similar kind of thing there, I guess.
I just didn't get round to it. But yes.
Get round to it.
It's interesting. When I used to get the physical copies, then I would actually really examine the front cover. I'd read the cast list on the back. I'd open up the booklet. I'd read through the booklet. So when I had the physical copy, I went through everything before I put the disc on. But now it's on download, I don't bother with anything first.
Right.
And then I go back and look afterwards. Oh, who was that? Oh, okay. Is that weird? I don't know. Maybe
it's very weird because I'm the same. I'm the same as I was with the physical copies. I still look at the cover, examine it. I even zoom in and if there's interesting things on it. So yeah, I that having the download experience over physical copy didn't really change anything for me. But it's interesting that it changed for you.
It did.
Well, there you go. That's our rabbit hole topic. Let's jump out of the rabbit hole and we'll be back in a moment. Right after this, here's a trailer for The War Room. And we'll be back in a moment with the producer, Heather Challands.
From Big Finish Productions, Gallifrey War Room, Volume 1.
This is what Gallifrey comes to. Cruel creatures ruled by a monster.
A monster, you say? I am a visionary, and you will have your part in achieving that vision. You see, Leela, I have plans for you.
We want the same thing. I need to be sure I can rely on you out here, that I can trust you. And I want you to know that you can trust me. We have a biosign.
A Dalek?
1 passenger, 2 heartbeats.
What a terrible Time Lord I'd become.
I only like the terrible ones. Romana would be amused.
Oh, I can imagine. Laughing at me for the mess I've become. If she could see us both right now.
She would be proud, Narvin.
Step away from the console.
Cardinal, I must protect...
Stand down, Commander! Leela, stop.
Never.
I know this is a difficult choice.
One way or another, you will serve Gallifrey. The only choice you have is how.
Exterminate the wrong race! Exterminate! Exterminate!
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
About 12 months ago, we were introduced to 3 new Big Finish producers. And we've already chatted with Mark Wright on the podcast previously. Now it's the turn of Heather Challands. G'day, Heather.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So tell us about how you actually got to be in the position you're in now. Was it something you always wanted to do, is to get into the audio production industry? Is this where you always imagined yourself to be?
I knew I wanted to go into production specifically, but no, Big Finish kind of came about. I came to it as a fan, first and foremost, as a Doctor Who fan, and then as specifically a Big Finish fan, enjoying their ranges. But I was still at university when I got this gig. And the way it kind of came about was I'd met Nick at Big Finish Day in 2019, and we kind of got chatting about story and about my degree. And he then followed me on Twitter. And when I was looking for basically anything, because I had no experience, anything to do, even if it was theatre production or TV production or audio production, radio, I was just looking for some work shadowing or temp job or whatever to fit in with my degree. And Nick kindly offered me a few days in studio. And so I went down, had a few days in studio, and it kind of grew from there. This was just before lockdown, just before the pandemic. And then that December 2020, I kind of had more targeted shadowing with David Richardson on a couple of remote recordings. And then I was offered a place on this mentorship scheme with Nick as my mentor. And I went from shadowing to filling in on recording days, and then co-producing, and then producing. So, yeah.
Excellent. Can I just, I wasn't aware that you were a fan. I had assumed that you weren't a fan. So tell us about your Doctor Who fandom. How did you become a fan in the first place?
Well, like everyone, I think of sort of my generation, is it kind of started with Christopher Eccleston, and then I watched the revival TV show, and then I found out about this huge expanded world of classic Doctor Who and comics and audio and all that kind of thing. So it kind of grew from there through my teenage years.
So how much have you delved into have you seen all the classic era?
I've not seen all the classic era, to my intense shame. No. But I have seen quite a bit of it, and I've seen at least, a couple of episodes from each Doctor. Obviously, my heart kind of goes towards Pertwee because I produce the third Doctor range, so I've seen all of his stuff. But it's finding the time at the moment.
Typically, the older fans like Paul Dwayne and I, we're very much the classic mold. But typically, 90% probably are male. I'm not sure what the stats would be like. When the show came back, huge numbers of women, probably I think equal numbers of women and male fans joined the show. What do you think it was about the new era that made it so much more accessible or desirable for women to become fans?
I don't know, and I don't know if I can necessarily speak towards that, because in 2005 I was 7. So I wasn't really...
Oh, I'm feeling so old. You have no idea how old you are making me feel.
I'm so sorry. So I can't really speak to audience trends and stuff like that. But I mean, the era that I really got into it and who I sort of still consider to be my Doctor is Matt Smith. And I think the role of the companion is always so important in whatever Doctor it is. And you see that again with the third Doctor era, the distinctness of the companion and the role of the companion. I think when Russell brought back the series, the companion was how we accessed it. And if the way that you are accessing it is by someone of the same gender or around about the same age or whatever kind of identifier you can use, that makes it a whole lot easier, which is why representation has become such a focus and so important. That's my 2 cents anyway.
So you particularly related to Amy? Is that what sort of was your calling point?
Yeah, I think I liked how independent she was. I wouldn't say I'm particularly like Amy myself, but the motif of a girl who didn't quite feel like she belonged looking outside of her bedroom window, that kind of struck with me because I was going through severe depression towards the end of Matt Smith's era as well. And so the image of the Doctor as a kind of imaginary friend kind of resonated with me, I suppose. I have a vivid memory of when I found out that I was actually not just shadowing, but getting a job with Big Finish. And I was originally asked to co-produce Unit Nemesis 2, which halfway through the scripting process, that turned into full producing. And I remember it because I was on top of a hill.
As you are.
I was on a walk with my mum and a couple of her friends because my mum's birthday was in a few days. And they had brought cinnamon scones and some sloe gin that we all drank from a flask. And I was sort of jumping up and down looking at my emails going, they want me to co-produce Unit. But, with the hybrid recording, I hadn't met Gemma or Ingrid until last month.
Right.
So all the shadowing you were doing just on Zoom, well, equivalent of...
So the initial shadowing wasn't on Zoom. It was in person because COVID hadn't hit yet. And my first day, actually, I went to Moat Studios, so I can officially say I've had 2 Big Finish lunches. My first day, I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't been sent a script. All I knew is that Nick was going to be there. I was absolutely petrified. I'd walked the route to the studio the night before, so I knew where I was going. And in walk in Paul McGann and Caroline Ford, and it was the last episode of Susan's War we were doing.
Right, wow.
And that was my first day.
Not bad.
That's a good first day.
No wonder I stuck around, isn't it?
I'll say.
So what was it, do you think that Nick saw in you when, yep, this is a producer, this is someone I want in the company?
Oh, I've asked him that. Mainly because I'm quite self-deprecating. He said that it was my initiative and my want to be helpful. So when I did the shadowing, I would get actors from the green room who needed to be in the next scene, so we didn't waste time. And because I was invited down to the Human Frontier, which was his Big Finish original, and I'd been invited down for the whole week, but I couldn't make it because I had university lectures, and so I could only make the final day. And even though we were only recording 1 episode, he sent me all the scripts, and I read all the scripts, and I read them sort of inside and out, so I could ask questions during the recording, and make sure that. So I went a little bit neurotic on it all, but I think that's what he knew, that I had a passion for the work and I was a nice person. So that's what I'm sticking with. And if ever I have moments of self-doubt, which I absolutely do, one thing that I kind of have to remember is that with Jason and with David and with Nick, I trust their opinion. Like, I absolutely, no holds barred, I trust their opinion. They know what they're doing. They're brilliant at their jobs. And so if it's Nick's opinion that I can be trusted, doing anything other than trusting myself would be a disservice to him. And that's kind of what I think. My role is very, very collaborative. So working with people like Andrew Smith and Matt Fitton and Nick and Ken Bentley, who I work with a lot, and Sam Clemens as well, you can't help but feel supported. with things like that, even if you are quite green. Which I still feel like I am. I've been at this job, well, over a year, but about a year and a half, because I've been working before I was announced on the Twitter. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. You know, someone once said to me, "Oh, you're younger than Verity Lambert was," which is just completely horrific to tell me.
Not much.
Not much, thank God.
But she started the whole show. You're just producing from other people's help.
I'm just doing audio. Like,
exactly.
Please, God, don't put me in that box.
Sure, you can do it a couple of years' time.
Yeah, the age thing is odd. It's very hard for me to get through a recording session without me not understanding someone's reference to something, like pop culture wise. And you know, and you speak to people like Stephen Noonan who just have it in their bones. And so with the Third Doctor Adventures, luckily I have Nick to steer me, but I do feel sort of a weight of, okay, I need to know who these, I need to do this to the best of my ability. Yeah, the age thing.
And the only way to do that is to watch the whole John Pertwee series, and it's such a hard task.
I know.
It must be torture. Must be torture.
It's very weird because no one in my family likes Doctor Who.
Is that right?
So it's not like I can say, "Oh, who wants to watch Inferno with me?" Because no one will want to. No one will want to. The age thing with me being so young, and I was doing my dissertation whilst recording Conspiracy in Space, which was the first Third Doctor story that I did. It's come up a couple of times, and one of the most memorable ones was at Gallifrey 1 with a writer for Big Finish who had listened in on the panel that I'd done, and they came up to me and they said, "I was absolutely prepared to hate you. I wanted to hate you so much because you're young and you're doing this and but I couldn't." And that was nice, but also very weird.
I'm sure there's lots of people that hate you anyway, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. No,
Philip says that to people. He hates them, but that means he loves them.
Yeah. No, I say that to my brothers. You do feel a great weight of responsibility. So when I found out about Call Me Master, or that it might be a possibility that I was producing it, I cried. Because suddenly I was thinking, why the hell are they picking me? But also, yes, they're picking me. And
on Unit Nemesis, you've been working with Andrew Smith. Just talk to him about doing things when you're young.
Oh, I know, exactly.
He was starting to write to the Doctor Who production office when he was 14.
Yes, that's true. Andrew, I love working with Andrew because we're very collaborative on the series plan and with scripts, and I feel very, very comfortable with Unit because I'd listened to all of the box sets previously. I'd seen all the episodes that Kate and Osgood were in, and I identified with their characters so much. So that range has a real special place in my heart. And it was also the first job I got. I got that before the Third Doctor Adventures.
Give us an idea of what a day in the life of a Big Finish producer is.
That is not an easy question because it changes. Like, you never have the same day twice. And especially depending on how many productions you're working on and what stage they're all at, it is very complex. So, I mean, I suppose I could take where I am now is that I've been working on a series plan with a script editor. I'm also looking at budgets for a couple of upcoming projects. But at the same time, I've got episode edits to listen to and behind the scenes edits to listen to, and cover art that I'm waiting for, as well as soon I'll be signing off storylines and scripts, and then you plan recording days. So tomorrow I'm doing a recording day. So it'll be completely different to my day to day.
Right.
Is recording still happening online mostly, or now back in studio?
It's a hybrid. So tomorrow is completely remote. So I'll be on clean feed. Both of the actors will be on clean feed. The director will be on clean feed, and the engineer. But recently, I spent quite a few days in London, actually in a studio with the actors, and it depends on what production it is, what actors you're working with, what directors you're working with. But hybrid does sort of seem to be the way to go. It makes actor accessibility a lot easier, I think.
What was your degree you were doing? I'm just curious to know, what were you studying to end up here?
Yeah, I was studying English literature and creative writing.
So that you've got the creative story side behind you. So how did you learn to do a budget?
I got given one by David Richardson. Budgets they're relatively simple because as a company we have sort of, set rates depending on what type of production it is. And yeah, they're not too hard to figure out. It only gets tricky when you have to work out doubling in roles and how long you can have an actor in for, and giving cast numbers to your writers. That's the only really tricky thing.
So in terms of budget, you're looking at things like studio time, paying directors, writers, script editors, casting. What's the biggest variables that you actually get within that?
Well, obviously, all the jobs are there, and they all remain the same. But the main difference is usually rates and usually guest cast. So we separate it out. We have our leads, and they're on a specific fee, and however many leads you've got. But guest cast is the main chunk of it, and that's what can change.
I want to pick up on the fact that you were doing creative writing. Now, David Richardson, who you've tailed, is known to be an ideas man. So he throws a lot of ideas out there. Is that something that you're able to do as well, or that you're hoping to do?
It's something that is always a part of my job. So series plans, especially, I work quite closely with a script editor. So shaping box sets, deciding kind of the trajectory that we want to go. Ranges that kind of spring to mind at the moment are Unit Nemesis, and then obviously where we go after Unit Nemesis, which we don't know yet. I have ideas, but we've not had the conversation. And then things like Gallifrey War Room and Call Me Master as well. So I'm part of the creative process, which I absolutely love, and I love working with script editors.
Do you reckon you'll get a chance to have a go at a script yourself at some stage?
I don't think that I quite have the confidence. A friend of mine once said that they were a writer because they felt the need to write. Currently, I don't quite feel the need to inflict the world on a script that I've written.
Sure you're being too hard on yourself. So what?
Probably.
Philip, she sounds like a writer. She
does sound like a writer. Oh no, I'm no good. Yeah,
I'm perfectly happy, doing the series plan and thinking about things like that rather than the nitty gritty of a script.
How far ahead are you working? And I mean, I know you can't give us no spoilers. We don't know what's coming. I mean, in terms of the website, we know the Third Doctor Adventures for 2023 A and B. There's 2 box sets, which are obviously fairly well advanced. Are you working much beyond 2023? How far ahead are you actually thinking and planning and working?
Well, I think the furthest that I'm planning is probably Gallifrey War Room, because that's 4 box sets and they're released yearly. So that takes us up to, I think, 2025.
There's only going to be one a year.
Yeah, it's one a year.
Oh, it's going to drive me insane. Okay.
In a good way or a bad way?
Oh, I have a huge passion for Gallifrey, so just thinking only one a year.
You know, Heather, the only problem I have with such a large gap between box sets is that none of the box sets, and I have put this to Nick before, and he said it's down to budget, and the director has to get paid extra to put a what happened previously on the beginning of a box set. So so that's my only issue with things so far apart, is that I listen to most Big Finish things. So by the time I get to the next one, I've forgotten what's happened in the previous box. So if you can squeeze a previously trailer into the budget, that'd be great.
I think I always in the behind the scenes, I always sort of try to sort of go, well, when we last left it, kind of thing. But it's the only range that I work on that is one a year. The rest are biannually, so it's been quite strange because I've had a little bit of a break from it. I got through the War Room theme tune the other day. Kid you not, cried. Because cool. it's the first box set that I've ever had where I've got an original theme tune.
So who did that? Howard?
Yeah, Howard.
Oh, great.
Who did the same thing for the trailer. But yeah, we got a theme tune, and I've been working on Gallifrey War Room since February 2021. So it's kind of
a long time.
Yeah, it's not usual. But we had various delays and
well, if Louise is in it, she got some big roles come up, didn't she? So was that one of the factors?
It wasn't actually. No, we managed to nab Louise, I think, just before she started filming. So she was on about costume fittings and stuff like that. So we just managed to nab Lou.
That sort of brings me to another question, especially on Call Me Master. I say Master, it's Call Me Master. He likes saying Master, doesn't he?
Because he's from up north. So it's Call Me Master.
Yeah. You came into the Third Doctor range on volume 8, I think it was. So well established.
Yeah.
So obviously it had been going for a long time. It was doing well. Tim Treloar settled right in. We've got this new box set, Call Me Master, coming out. It's a brand new thing. How much consideration is there for? Is it produce these first two sets and then we wait and see what we do after that, or you've got an even longer term plan?
I can't say too much, and I don't know too much.
That doesn't sound like Big Finish.
But you have to remember, as a producer, I'm freelance.
Yep.
So I don't know anything to do with the negotiations with the BBC or whatever. So at the moment, I'm of the mind to take what we've got, and then if we get more, that would be lovely.
The Annihilators was an interesting set because it was a bit of a crossover, wasn't it? Not only was it a long 7-part story, but it also crossed over with the Second Doctor. Was Mark Wright involved in that as well, or he's completely separate from that?
No, he was separate from that.
Okay.
So, I mean, Nick obviously he knows what's going on with the Second Doctor range, but I don't think we particularly coordinated anything with Mark. Third Doctor's an odd range to work on. It definitely stands out because it's the only sort of classic one that I work on. I have to watch a serial before I get down in the script, because I feel like I have to. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously with the Annihilators, it was a 7-parter, and a 7-part has a very, very specific structure to deal with, and so you can't approach that story like you would approach a Gallifrey or a unit story, because they're not structured in the same way, and they're not the same length. But the Third Doctor's era, especially, it has such a specific vibe to it. I always feel like I have to rewire my brain a little bit, and it helps me reintroduce myself to the characters again.
I guess you're so busy all the time working just your patch. Are you aware much of what is happening in other patches, or is this no, I've just got to focus on what I'm doing next, and you leave the big picture stuff to. Is that Nick that sort of oversees everything and he's fingering everything?
It's a combination of Nick and David. So Nick is obviously creative director, so he is aware of things that are going on, and then David's senior producer, so that means that he helps to schedule everything. I know a little bit about what's going on, mainly because I talk to script editors who are working on other projects, or I talk to other producers as well. But obviously my new job has meant that I've got a lot bigger a picture of what's happening. So I feel like I'm fairly clued in.
Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about the new job. Executive assistant to Mr. Briggs. Tell us about how that works.
He's going to sound terribly boring, but I talk to him a lot, and I help sort out his approvals, because part of his job is he has to approve every trailer, every cover, and every storyline. And so that's a lot of work, as well as kind of organize. I basically keep his calendar. But every so often he'll ask me for advice and thoughts, and we've got a really nice working relationship. I'm very grateful to Nick.
So I guess the question is, what did he do without you?
No, I'm not that indispensable. Well, I say that. I'm very indispensable because I really want to keep the job. But no, I think I make his life easier. No, I know I do. He's told me. But
I'm sure you do.
So being so involved in the production side of things for Big Finish now, you said previously you're a fan. Do you still get a chance to listen to things as a fan and enjoy them, or is it just all work for you now?
I have less time than I did to listen to things because I'm so busy kind of listening to my own stuff, and then you want to take your headphones off for a day. But I do try and keep abreast of what's happening, and I will occasionally listen to a Big Finish audio drama. But yeah, I have less time for it now, which is sad. But also, when I listen to edits of my own stuff, part of me is listening as a fan as well. So I'm just completely giddy throughout the whole. Like, I'm professional, but I'm also a little bit giddy.
So how is that for you now that you're on the other side of fandom? Well, you're sort of on both sides, I guess. And you recently went to Gallifrey as a guest. So how is that for you, being sitting and facing the fans rather than actually being one?
I'd actually bought a ticket to Gallifrey 1 before getting a job as a producer. So I was going anyway, and I was going with a bunch of friends, and we rented out an Airbnb. And then Jason, or I think it was Jason, was just like, oh, well, if you're going, then I'll hook you up with and we can make you a guest. And then that kind of got tied in with promotion for Gallifrey War Room, because we premiered the video trailer there. And it was the first time that I'd ever A, been to a convention that big, and B, been to a convention as a guest. So it was quite the baptism of fire, I think. But good fun and huge privilege. And I had a ball there. I'd love to go again.
Had you been before?
No. I'd never been to the US, never mind a convention there. The furthest sort of that I'd ever gone is to Canada. I'd been to Canada before, but I'd never been to the United States. And it was lucky because I'd finished uni by that point. I'd graduated. I could take a few days and stay with my friends, and we went and saw the sights. We went to Disneyland, we went to Universal Studios, and it was a lot of fun. I still had to work a little bit. I was listening to edits in the Disneyland queue. So
that's funny.
But lots of fun. Yeah.
There's nothing quite like Disneyland, is there?
Well, it was really, really awkward because I don't know if you listened to Unit Nemesis 2?
Yes.
Well, I was listening to episode 4, and in episode 4, Kate goes through the ringer quite a bit. Yep. Spoiler alert. So I was in the happiest place on earth listening to Kate Stewart be absolutely just treated awfully by some aliens. So you have a few moments where you think, this is my job, this is my life, and that was definitely one. I hope it's not ruined Disneyland for me.
The thing I'm really loving about Harry and Nemesis is the fact that he's still got his 70s dialogue, but in a 2000 show. And it's a scream because the whole way he speaks and all the flow of...
I loved pairing him up with Kate in The Power of the Dominators.
Yes.
Because Kate is a character who will not take any of, like, none of that. And also the fact that Kate is also technically his commanding officer in that. It's a really interesting kind of dynamic, and you do sort of wonder, but I feel like once Harry must have like babysat Kate or something.
Yes, exactly.
Or like we'll have seen her in pigtails or whatever. So that he does have a particular way of speaking, and I love working with the character, and I love working with Chris. And he suddenly dropped into this unit world that's very much female led and female run and 21st century sensibilities. So it's I think him and Kate make quite the double act in that.
Yeah, definitely. So you obviously were a big fan, not just a little fan of Doctor Who before getting the job. You also mentioned you were a fan of Big Finish. So how did you first started discovering Big Finish before you started working there?
I had friends who knew about it and would recommend it, and then they had sort of a big promotion around the 50th anniversary, which is when I think a lot of people got into it. And actually the first box set that I listened to a couple of Paul McGann's, loved them, but the first box set that I ever bought was Unit Extinction, because I was like, oh, I know these characters, so I can jump on board there. And that was the first box set I bought.
So what were some of the shows or the stories that really impressed you early on before you started working for Big Finish? What are your favourite moments?
I love the Paul McGann, Lucy Miller stuff. And I really liked bringing Susan back and Alex. And so the two-parter with Lucy Miller, oh, that makes me cry.
Yeah, me too.
Like every time, like I must have listened to it over 3 times now. I cry every time. If it's a finale written by Nick or by Alan, I'm gone. They will make me cry.
The first time I listened to it, I didn't cry because I didn't believe it was happening. And I thought, there's no way this is happening. There's no way this is happening. No, they couldn't possibly do it, so they're not going to do it. They've done it.
Then they did it.
And then I listened again, and I was amazed the whole time.
Can we talk spoilers?
Oh,
yeah,
that's old enough now that we can spoil that one.
Okay, well, I mean, the fact that they didn't just do it, but they killed off, it was Tamsin first, right?
Yes, that's right.
And then they killed off Alex, and then they killed off Lucy. It was just, like, it did not let up for a single second. And it puts the Doctor in such an interesting position when we go on to the start of Dark Eyes.
Yeah.
And yes, I've got a real fondness for anything to do with Unit. So that's their sort of highlights for me. I enjoyed the 8th of March box set originally. And then since then, I've listened to Gallifrey Time War and the War Doctor stuff. I loved the War Doctor stuff with Jacqueline Pearce as Alystra. Yes.
Yeah.
Again, I've not quite delved into much of the other Doctors because I don't know them as well, and I really should rectify that. But I've listened to all the Paul McGann stuff, except his Time War box sets, because I got really funny about not going in chronological order. I did a whole listen, Storm Warning, right up to I think it was Stranded 2 that had come out by then, and then just sort of went no further.
So what is there that you can tell us that's in the foreseeable future? Anything?
No, there's nothing.
Nothing that's not already on the Big Finish website.
Nothing that's not already on the Big Finish website. So obviously I'm working on Call Me Master, working on Gallifrey War Room, working on Unit, Third Doctor Adventures, which we are wrapping tomorrow, I think. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that haven't been announced yet. I will say that much.
When War Room was announced, I was very happy to see Sean Carlson back. We had him on the podcast a little while ago, and he was keeping very quiet about it. Although I don't.
When did you have him on?
It was about September, October last year.
Oh, he didn't know.
Ah, good.
He fully did not.
He was saying it's all over, never back again. Da da da.
I was feeling really, really bad because I was seeing all of I'd signed off. I think I'd signed off on the scripts by the time Time War 4 came out. So I was like fully in the know that it was coming back, that we were doing this. But I was seeing everyone sort of crying and reacting to Narvin and Sean posted such a sweet message. And I'm just sitting in at my desk going, they haven't got a clue. And it was the same. It was the same at Gallifrey 1. I went on there was a panel that they had with Matt Fitton on it. And this is before we announced the video trailer. So they were all, commemorating the demise of the series. I'm sat there going, I'm the producer for the new series. No one's got a clue.
So you don't even tell the actors what's coming?
No. The actors aren't brought in until we need them to record.
They're the last to find out.
Can't trust them.
Yeah, so yeah, a little bit. They are kind of the last to find out. Bless them, because we have to have scripts.
And you've got some great names in there, like Richard Armitage as Rassilon. Fantastic to have him back. Everyone loves him. But an actor that I love in that series is Ken Bones. I was very surprised when I saw Ken in the television series. Actually, he was in that, wasn't he?
Oh, really?
He was in.
He was in multiple.
He was in Hellbent. He was in Hellbent.
Yes, he was in The Day of the Doctor originally.
That's right. I remembered him from years ago when he was in a miniseries of Jack the Ripper with Michael Caine. Do you remember that, Philip?
No, I don't actually, because I was big into the Jack the Ripper shows at that time.
Oh yeah, that's what got me into Jack the Ripper, was that miniseries, and he had a major part in that. So quite a different part to what he's playing in this, but yeah, it's nice to see all these actors still going and working for Big Finish. What is it about Big Finish that makes all these actors want to keep coming back, Heather? It's
always very, very fun and very fast and furious, and the scripts are so good. You do sort of think, oh, well, why wouldn't you? If it's a part that you love playing, or if it's something that you wouldn't normally play, I can see how that would be attractive to any actor. It's why I, as a producer, like coming across so many projects. None of them are the same. As much as you're going through the motions, none of them are the same.
So you're saying there's 4 box sets over 4 years. Have they all been recorded and they just sit in the can?
No. We're taking it one at a time. So we start planning the next box set very soon, and then that will be recorded probably around winter again. We take it one at a time.
Do you find the availability of some actors makes things like that hard, though, or just how it works?
It's interesting because sometimes actor availability is, a nightmare. The joy and the curse of working with such acting talent is that they're very busy, and so they're not always available ideally when you'd want them. And the way that we kind of sort that is we prioritize our leads, and usually there is a way to work it out, and with remote recording that becomes a lot easier. And so yeah, in the latest unit box set, I think we had about 8 returning characters.
Yeah.
Or something about that. I might be misremembering, but obviously that's a lot of people that you essentially have to get in different combinations in one room, and we managed that, I think, in a total of 6 days rather than 4, because normally you record 1 hour's audio in 1 day. It messes with your head a little bit.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
You're meant to be getting so good at spreadsheets now.
Oh, there are spreadsheets and lists, and I always do recording tables. So that, the first job that you need to do is get every actor's availability. And the first thing that you kind of got with, if it's your leads and you have to get that particular actor, you sort of say, and how are they doing for mid-October? And slowly you whittle it down until everyone's available and you have your dates. So yeah, I love meeting all the casts, and it's only something that I have been able to do recently since we've managed to go into studio, or since I've managed to go into studio, because of the commute and because of COVID and whatever. So yeah, and that's why Big Finish Day was so special as well, because you can meet the people that you're working with. So I actually got to sort of meet and chat to John Culshaw as opposed to listening to him down the end of a phone. Well, not a phone, but a clean feed. And
he's so passionate about Doctor Who, isn't he? He's just as big a fan as the rest of us.
He's so lovely and so nice. And we could have a right old gab about the Brigadier, which is brilliant, because you mentioned the creative writing aspect of my degree. I get so invested in the scripts and in the stories that we're trying to tell, and bringing out different sides to characters, so that when an actor responds to that, that's all you can hope for. And John is one of the actors that will totally respond to that. Yeah,
because he cares so much about
he was stood next to me when we announced Call Me Master, and obviously in the big announcement no one sort of pointed at me and went, she's producing that one, but I sort of elbowed John Culshaw, who was next to me, and goes, I'm producing that one. And he went, that's very well done. So I was able to have a little bit of a geek out. Yeah. So,
do you have the role of reading in?
Oh God, no. I've done that once. I did that once because Alfie Shaw had one of his actors come in to do a couple of pickups during one of my lunch times, and I read in. No, normally we get another actor to read in, or worst case scenario, we had Andrew Smith read in. He came down to studio for one of the Unit Nemesis 3 recording days, and we sort of pushed him in the booth. But no, I wouldn't. I'd be okay reading in, except I'd be an absolute anxious mess. It's also why I don't do wild tracks. I've been asked to do wild tracks before, and I've found out no. Because
I'm on some Big Finish wild tracks.
Are you?
I am.
Oh, which ones was it again, Philip? I can't remember. I remember you telling me.
I'd have to go back and double check too. It was
Was it a Bernice or?
No. It's it was. They also recorded. I mean, I remember all the witches they recorded for that. That's the one with
Necromantia.
Necromantia. So some of the voices in Jubilee screaming and shouting in the crowd. And there's another one too. It was a Doctor Who convention on Newcastle on Tyne that I went to, and Big Finish were up there, and they just did a bit of a demo and stuff, and because they had a big audience, they sort of said, we need these 4 or 5 tracks.
Oh, that's what we need to do. We need to just go to conventions and record.
That's what they did. So they had the room. So they had us all screaming and shouting out.
We get to the end of the day. The amount of times we get to the end of the day and it's like, oh, what do we need to do? Crowd screaming. Okay.
3 of us left.
and there's like 3 people, and we have to make them in a crowd. It's fantastic. But there are some. You have really bizarre moments in this job where it's you just sort of pinch yourself, or you never thought you'd write that note on a particular script, or, you're working with people whose work you very much admire.
We were talking about Gallifrey before, and that was an American convention. More recently, we had the Big Finish Day that you attended. Is there a difference between American fans and English fans or British fans?
I think that there probably is. I don't know if I've quite got the experience to notice it yet. Comparing Gallifrey 1 to Big Finish Day is a bit like comparing apples to oranges. They're both very different environments, a very, different group of fans. Obviously, Big Finish Day is far more targeted, and it's a smaller event, and people did kind of know who I was because I'd had a couple of releases out by then. So I signed some things, which was completely novel. Everyone's so welcoming and friendly at both conventions. I suppose perhaps British fans might be a little shyer, but not in any sort of negative way. I'm not saying that the Americans were completely loud or anything. They were both very, very different events, and I was at a different point in my career on both of them, and I was able to talk more freely, I think, with the American fans, just because I was there with friends as well as being a guest, and I wasn't needed so much over the few days. I kind of had, I think, is it 2 or 3 sort of panel chat event things, and then I was free to wander around the rest of the time or stay in the green room.
So how are the plans for Big Finish Day Down Under going?
Yeah, that's what I want to know too.
You're looking after. Aren't you organising that?
No, that's not a part of my job.
Come on, if they give you the budget, you get to fly yourself out to Australia, bring out Nick, and another 5 to 10 cast members.
I could totally plan a convention. That's exactly the same amount of skills.
Yeah, well, we'll plan it. You just bring out the guests.
Yeah. It would be great to do more conventions. I'd certainly love it, because sometimes you feel like you're producing these things in a void. And one thing that I felt with Big Finish Day, when people would come up with, these box sets that I'd helped produce and ask me to sign them, you're like, oh my God, people listened to this. This is out in the world. So that's a very, very strange feeling. Yeah, still something that I'm wrapping my head around.
Well, it's been fantastic getting some of your insights. Really appreciate you
Wish
talking
you could have
to
been
us.
more helpful.
No, you're very helpful. It's fascinating.
I love the coyness. It's great.
Do I know things or don't I?
I'll just pretend I know nothing at all.
I could have fed you absolute lies. I could have fed you rubbish.
I could see the cogs turning, going, can I say this? Can I say that? But yeah, really appreciate it. So
you'll
thanks,
look
Heather.
on this interview in 6 months and just think,
oh, she knew.
Filthy liar.
She knew. Yeah, I do. You get quite handy at lying in this job.
Or just not telling not telling everything.
Not telling everything. So I once lied to a fan called Ivy when they asked, is Narvin coming back? And I went, I don't know. Knowing that I'd recorded with him a month previous. It's the little things.
Something may have happened to stop it before they got out.
It's the little things.
It's the little things.
If it's not on the website, it doesn't exist.
If it's not on the website, it doesn't exist. Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Thanks, Heather. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Did you notice anything odd about that policeman?
No. Why?
He seemed strangely blank.
From Big Finish Productions, The Third Doctor Adventures, The Annihilators.
There's no way out. We're trapped.
What happened with the TARDIS?
There was an odd surge of...
Of what?
gravity.
gravity.
Oh my giddy aunt. What's that? I'm hallucinating. I must be.
They say that talking to yourself is the first sign of madness.
What?
But still, let's hope you appreciate the gravity of the situation.
Doctor!
Jamie! It's so good to see you!
You too! Oh, we better, keep our voices down.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
One day I dream of having fan art for every single range that I work on, and I'll just have a gallery behind me. So I'm like, and what am I working on today? That one.
Well, that was Heather Challands. It was lovely to speak with her, wasn't it, Philip?
It was indeed.
Stop your laughing. The things we cut from this podcast that you don't see, and you never will this time because it was a mistake I made.
Yes,
I only leave in your mistakes, Philip.
Yeah, my mistakes all end up on the screen. I know that, but yours, no, they just all disappear.
Okay, so really enjoyed chatting with Heather. It was great to get her insights on the process of production, what she actually does as a producer, and talking about some of the things that are yet to come. Of course, we've got the Call Me Master box set that's coming up that she's working on that sounds very exciting. And, of course, Gallifrey, The War Room, which is probably the most exciting one of the moment.
And more Third Doctor box sets as well.
Yes, that's right. More Third Doctor too. All right, so on that note, let's go to our recommendations for this week, Philip. I'm going to ask you, because I'm sick of asking whether it's my turn, because I just know it's yours.
Yeah, I'll just go then. How about I go?
Go.
I'm on a bit of a Blake 7 podcast hit at the moment. I've been sort of searching for a few different Blake 7 podcasts, and I'm going to recommend one called Blake 7, the Mutoid podcast.
Oh, that's the Crinoid podcast, guys.
It is the Crinoid podcast, guys, which I must admit I don't often listen to the Crinoid podcast. It's not a regular thing that I listen to. But they're bringing them out sporadically. I think the aim was, once a fortnight, but it doesn't happen like that. It's only now and then. So they haven't got that many out yet. But I'm really enjoying their analysis at the end. The thing I hate is they talk through the whole show. And so they just put it on and watch it, for goodness sake. But they tell you the whole story in great detail, which I don't quite get that. But to their credit,
their recaps go longer than the episodes.
Their recaps do go, yeah.
It is funny. Yeah. They do throw in some funny lines.
Yeah,
and some funny observations.
Not enough to make it worth it. But to their credit, they do actually tell you when the actual other bit starts. So if you look on their production notes, that the one I'm looking at the moment, the walk through the episode starts at 6:18, and then goes to 56:15. Which is basically as long as the episode is.
Yeah.
As you say, so, anyhow. But after that, they then start up the summing up and the explanation, and that stuff I'm finding very enjoyable. It's quite funny, but they do make some really good observations along the way. So, yeah, that's what I've been getting into. And as I said, they haven't got too many out at the moment. They're only coming out once every month or so. But, yeah, they're fun and worth listening to. So that's my recommendation, the Mutoid podcast. What about you, Dwayne?
I have just noticed a release from a musician that I know from when I was living in Hobart. As I've mentioned before, I used to do a radio show in Hobart, and I got to know a few musicians and became quite friendly with this guy who has a band called Machines of Indeterminate Origin. Now, Hobart, if anyone's aware of the music scene in Hobart, it's a very interesting kind of music scene down here. Very strange, very avant-garde, I think, is the word that you would use for the type of music that appears on the sort of underground scene here in Hobart, which is not where I am now, but it's where I was. And MOYO, which is the acronym for Machines of Indeterminate Origin, has just released, after quite a stretch actually, they've released a new single. The first track is called The Ship Writes Itself, but they've also done a cover of the Australian crawl track Reckless. So if you're an Australian, you'll know that song very well. I don't know how famous Aussie Crawl was overseas.
I don't know.
I think they were that, bands like they were on par here with Midnight Oil. So Midnight Oil was huge in the States and other parts of the world, but I don't think Aussie Crawl made it that far.
Okay.
But Reckless is the cover that they've done there, and I'll put a link in for you to have a listen to that. Be prepared. It's different. So they describe themselves as musically as sitting somewhat somewhere between metal and indie alternative. So I really like them because I know the guy. He's a lovely guy, and I've seen them live, so they sound fantastic live. But I will put a link in the show notes for this single because I think all the proceeds from it, it's a buy through Bandcamp and pay what you want. So it's a name your price release. And I think they're splitting all the proceeds from it between UN refugees, Ukraine emergency response, and Amnesty International donation for gun violence or gun control. So there's a split between those two charities. So I'll put a link in the notes for that. So that's what I've been listening to today, Philip.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did, and I'm sure you won't listen to it.
No, actually, I do actually like the song Restless, so I'll be curious to see what they've done with it. I may not like it, but I'll just definitely have a little listen. I'm curious now.
Okay. All right, that's it for this installment of the Sirens of Audio. Thanks very much for your company. Thanks for your company, Philip, and we'll catch you all next time.
Cheerio, everyone.
This has been the Sirens of Audio, episode 123. Go to your war room with our guest Heather Challands and your hosts Philip Edney and Dwayne Bunny. Original theme music composed by Joe Kramer. Contact us or check out all our details at sirensofaudio.com. Drop us a line at sirensofaudio@gmail.com or post a comment on our socials or our YouTube channel. Let us know your thoughts on this or any one of our episodes. Thanks for listening, audiophiles. We'll hear you next time.